Alright guys, welcome to the refrigeration cycle part of the course. If you've made it this far, then you guys are very dedicated to learning about HVAC. Alright, so I always think of the refrigeration cycle by starting with the compressor. The compressor is the heart of the system, and the compressor compresses the refrigerant. Pretty easy to understand. So for the compressor, you have to remember that it raises the pressure and it raises the temperature of the refrigerant. You also have to note that the compressor can only pump vapor refrigerant. So when it's in the compressor, it is a vapor. The refrigerant's in a vapor state, starting at the compressor. The second part of the cycle is the condenser. And it does exactly what it says it does. It condenses the refrigerant from a vapor into a liquid. And in the condenser, the refrigerant is a high pressure, high temperature, but in the condenser, since it's taking it from a vapor to a liquid, the refrigerant state in the condenser is going to be a liquid. Don't worry, I'm going to draw it all out and it's going to make sense once I map it all out. But just keep all of this in mind before I start drawing it out. The condenser is also where subcooling happens. Don't worry about what that means. We'll figure that out a little bit later. So we're halfway there. Next, for our third component, we have the metering device. All right, and the metering device is going to lower the pressure. Metering device is also known as the pressure reducer. The compressor increases the pressure of the refrigerant, the metering device lowers it. And as we learned in our thermodynamics part of the course, when we raise the pressure of a substance, we raise the temperature as well. So at the metering device, we're now going to have a low pressure and we're going to have a low temperature. But remember, in the condenser, it was a liquid. The state of the refrigerant at the metering device is a liquid / vapor mix. And I'll explain why in a few minutes. Last but not least, we have the fourth component, which is the evaporator. And this evaporates / boils the refrigerant. At the evaporator, what's the state of the refrigerant? Well, we're going to have a low pressure, we're going to have a low temperature, and the state of the refrigerant is going to be a vapor because it's boiling from a liquid to a vapor. Now that we have the order and all the components, let's figure out how this all makes sense. So let's walk you through how the refrigeration cycle actually works. All right, so everything starts with a compressor. It's the heart of the system. It's the biggest energy absorber or energy user in the refrigeration cycle. So on the left side of the compressor, we have a low temperature, low pressure vapor. That's refrigerant inside the compressor. What the compressor does is it raises the pressure of the refrigerant, which then increases the temperature. And if you remember from our thermodynamics course, when you decrease the volume of a space with a substance in it, it forces them to bounce off the walls, bounce off each other a lot more rapidly, increasing the heat energy. So the compressor pumps the vapor down the refrigerant line. This refrigerant line specifically from the compressor to the condenser is called the discharge line. And it's pretty easy that the industry decided to name everything based off their functions. This is where the refrigerant is discharged from the compressor. So we have this high temperature, high pressure vapor. So this high temperature, high pressure vapor is traveling to the condenser. All right, and at the condenser, there's a fan at the top of this condenser that's pulling air over these coils. So the temperature of this coil here, this condenser, is normally about, let's say, just as an example, let's say it's about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. But outside, let's say the outside air is 90 degrees. On a 90-degree day, this 90-degree air is cooler than this 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So what it's going to do is it's going to cool off this refrigerant. And as we remove heat from the refrigerant, it's going to condense from a vapor and slowly start to convert into a liquid. And towards the bottom of the condenser, it's going to fully turn into a stack of liquid. It's going to be a full liquid. And that's what we want at the metering device. We want full stacking of liquid. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. So let's say we have water vapor. We have water vapor at 240 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, we all know that once water gets below 212, it will condense. It will condense into a liquid. At 212, it will go from a vapor into a liquid. And we also know that until water reaches 212, it will not boil into a vapor. And this is only at standard atmospheric pressures. So let's keep in mind this refrigerant, that's 130 degrees. Let's say the pressure of this condenser is 400 psi. Just like with water, there is a certain degree that matches with the pressure at which the refrigerant will turn from a vapor to a liquid. And let's say that specific temperature that matches with the pressure is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember when we talked about latent heat and specific heat, when there's a state change that occurs, there's no temperature gain in the refrigerant. The energy being used is going into changing the state of the refrigerant. So right here, there's a ton of energy being rejected from the system. Heat energy is being rejected from the system to turn it from 120 degrees of vapor to 120 degrees of liquid. But we can't measure that with Fahrenheit. We can't measure that with temperature. Once it gets to this point, remember, we still have a fan pulling air across it. Once it gets to this point, it's going to start cooling it in degrees. So at this point in the refrigerant, we probably have 115 degrees Fahrenheit. And at this point, we probably have 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it stays 110 degrees Fahrenheit until it gets to the metering device. But what have we just done there? We've subcooled the refrigerant. This is the saturation point, this 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the point at which below it, it will be subcooled, and above it, it will be superheated. So right here, we were superheated. And right here, we were subcooled. All because we have now cooled the refrigerant 10 degrees past the saturation temperature. Remember, this right here is the saturation temperature. And your saturation temperature is going to come from your pressure. For refrigerant, there's a saturation temperature for each pressure. So let's say we had refrigerant at 350 psi. The temperature is probably going to be around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means if we were at this point in the condenser and we have 90 degree refrigerant, then we're subcooled 10 degrees. If that makes sense. So, right, how do we get the cooling, right? This isn't making sense. How are we going to cool the house with this, right? So one thing to remember about the condenser is what it's doing, the whole reason we're manipulating the pressure and temperature is we're rejecting heat. We're using this latent heat process of changing the state, because it requires a lot of energy, right? It requires the releasing of a lot of heat energy to change the state. In order to reject heat, we must get a substance that is hotter than our outside air, right? We are blowing cold air over our hot coil. As we do that, heat is taken from the condenser into the air, right? So if you put your hand over this condenser, it's going to feel hot. Heat is being released when we're going from a vapor to a liquid. If we were going the other way around, like from a liquid to a vapor, then we'd be adding heat, just like when we boil. Remember? When we boil a pot of water, what do we have to do to get this pot of water at 90 degrees to 212? Well, we have to add heat. Once we add heat, in 5 minutes it'll be at, 150, right? Still not boiling. Once we get it to the saturation point, now, once we're at 212, it will start boiling off into a vapor. That's what we're doing here, but instead of boiling, we're condensing. So we've got to remove the heat instead of adding it. All right, so we've rejected heat from our refrigerant. And the way that we did that was by getting this condenser really, really hot so that the outside air, 90 degrees, can cool it off. And in the process, we condense the refrigerant into a liquid. Now we've got a full column of liquid, right? That right there is 100% liquid. At our metering device. What is the metering device? The metering device is a tiny orifice. It's just a tiny hole. And when we have this high pressure, high temperature refrigerant, that's a liquid, and it's faced with this tiny, tiny hole at the metering device, it's not going to let it all through. It's just going to let a little bit of it through. And as it does that, it's 75% liquid and 25% a vapor. So we have our little liquid vapor mixture, just like in the definition coming out of this metering device. Now it's going to enter our evaporator coil. The liquid pours in, right? There's a stack of liquid sitting at the bottom of this evaporator coil. This evaporator coil is inside the house. This was outside the house. This is inside the house. This line is the liquid line, by the way. It's carrying the liquid from the condenser to the metering device, which, by the way, we can go ahead and draw a line now. This line means on this side of the line we have outside components. This side of the line we have inside components. They're connected with refrigerant lines that go from outside the house to inside the house. It's now a low temperature, low pressure liquid. So we went from about 400 psi right at this point. We had 400 psi. Now, as soon as we cross over this tiny little point, tiny hole at the metering device, now we have about 150 psi. So now we've got a liquid, low temperature, low pressure liquid. Now we're starting to get towards cooling, hoping it's starting to make sense. At this evaporator coil, we have hot air, right? The blower is pulling maybe 75 degree air, 70 degree air over this evaporator coil. And this evaporator coil is about 45 degrees. At least it should be around 45 degrees. So what happens when we pull 70 degree air across this 45 degree evaporator coil? So the heat from the air is going to be absorbed into this evaporator coil, right? It's going to heat up the cold evaporator coil. So let's say the saturation temperature of the evaporator coil is 45. What does that mean? That means that the refrigerant in the evaporator coil, if we get it over 45 degrees, it's going to go from a liquid to a vapor. It's going to be superheated at that point. So right at this point, we're hitting 45 degrees. Before this point, maybe we were 37 degrees, right? So what are we doing? We're bringing the refrigerant up to the saturation point. So we're de-subcooling it, essentially. Now that we've got it to the saturation point by absorbing this heat from the inside of the house, now we can start our state change, going from a liquid to a vapor. Because now we went from 45 degrees here to 45 degrees here. But from here to here, we've changed states. And to do that, we're absorbing heat, just like our boiling of water on the stove. We have to absorb heat to go from 212 water to 212 steam. So we have absorbed heat to go from 45 degrees liquid to 45 degrees vapor. Now, once we're past our saturation point, our saturation temperature point, now we can start to superheat. Why do we want to superheat? Well, if you remember from the definitions, the compressor can only pump vapor. If we get liquid into our compressor, not good. So we need to superheat our refrigerant. So from this point to about this point, we've gained about 10 degrees of superheat because we're 10 degrees past our saturation temperature. So now our refrigerant heads back to the compressor as a low temperature, low pressure vapor. Right here we're a low temperature, low pressure vapor, low temperature, low pressure liquid, high temperature, high pressure liquid, high temperature, high pressure vapor, and actually from here to here, the state of the refrigerant is actually saturated. Same thing with from here to here, where the state change was happening, the state of the refrigerant is saturated. So I hope this made sense to you guys. I hope if it didn't make sense to you, watch the video a few more times and see if you can't make sense out of it. But thank you guys for watching this section of the refrigeration cycle.